The classic kid isn't mine. My wife and I have been married for about 4 years and together for almost 8. We started out as me 21 and her almost 18. Our relationship began with us not liking each other at all. We were both in unhappy relationships and happened to work together. Eventually, we found friendship in each other, which quickly turned into a desire to be around each other and connect emotionally. We ended our previous relationships and got together. A few days after our breakups, she slept with her ex, and a few months later, found out she was pregnant. We knew the child wasn't mine because we hadn't slept together in a while. I no longer blame her for this. She was just under 18 and had a history of partying and promiscuity. I dealt with the news by fully supporting her and being there for her. However, I didn't address any of my own issues with the situation, which was a mistake. It led to a lot of pent-up anger and resentment after our son was born. The biological father wants nothing to do with him, and now our son is 6 years old, and I consider him my own. My wife stayed with me through my emotional outbursts, which I now know was wrong. Throughout our time together, we also had a child of our own and bought a house. During this time, I grew emotionally and physically distant from my wife. I withdrew into myself and didn't even realize it. There were moments of spark between us, but I was too lazy or oblivious to see them. My wife didn't help the situation by pretending everything was fine and that nothing was wrong. So, I didn't do anything to fix a problem that I didn't even see. We've always had a limited income and had to struggle to make ends meet. Recently, our home was foreclosed and we had to move. Surprisingly, it ended up working out for us because we found a rental home closer to our workplaces, and our oldest child can attend kindergarten in the town we wanted. Before we moved, our relationship was already experiencing problems such as emotional withdrawal. But when we moved and got internet access, the problems escalated. I had trust issues with my wife, which I had been working on by myself and had reached a point where I was okay with things. However, I used to make comments to her when she came home from a night out, even though we rarely had the opportunity to go out due to our opposite work schedules and the need to save money on daycare. One day I noticed her browsing history was open, and although I had felt like I should investigate before, I never did. As I scrolled through the history, I clicked on a link that took me to her account on a dating service. I was devastated to see that she had a personal ad looking for love. I immediately called her at work and confronted her. At first, she tried to deny it, but I was able to read back information to her and she eventually admitted to it. We had many long talks over the next week, some of which were healing and others were venting sessions. We discussed why our relationship had reached a point where she was seeking companionship elsewhere, and I found out she was already talking to another man and enjoying how he made her feel. She deleted her account and emailed everyone she had been talking to, asking them to leave her alone as she tried to regain my trust. We are now working on reigniting the spark we once had, and I thought we were making progress. I am not a social person by nature, but I have been pushing myself to be more social in order to improve our relationship. I put myself into situations to emotionally branch out and make her happy. I've had bad days, but I've also had a week or so of good days without any major setbacks. However, I recently found out that she had searched for a guy she had previously contacted on MySpace, which made me feel betrayed after I had opened up to her and tried to trust her. I also discovered other small lies she had been telling, but nothing too significant. This led to us not sleeping in the same bed and her not talking to me about it. I sent her a long email expressing my feelings, and she responded saying she is not happy and doesn't know why. She wants to leave me, but she also loves me and goes back and forth between wanting to leave and wanting to stay. She mentioned that the time we spent reconnecting felt forced to her, even though I thought we were making progress because I felt a spark between us. We plan to talk tonight when she gets home from work and try to work things out. I feel betrayed and lost, and I don't want to live without her, but I'm not sure if I can move past this. We have discussed the possibility of divorce or separation, but I wish we could afford counseling instead of relying on free online resources. I want our relationship to work, and I believe she does too, but I'm confused about what to do. I apologize for the length of this as I tend to ramble when explaining things, but I hope someone can give me unbiased advice. Our friends and family are biased towards one side. We talked for 4 hours last night and discussed a lot about what's going on. She is currently where I was emotionally, and I'm working towards improving myself. She mentioned having a hard time feeling anything, not just with us, but also with our kids, co-workers, and longtime friends. This could be because she thinks I'm not fully committed to changing, as I have promised before, but then regressed. However, I believe I have convinced her of my sincerity this time, as it was a moment of realization for me. I assured her that I will support her and help her work through any issues she may have. I'm not sure if she has a mental problem, as her father had schizophrenia, or if she's struggling to cope with all the changes happening. She felt like I was forcing myself to love her again, but that's not the case. I hope this is a best-case scenario because at our core, we are a strong couple. However, we do have some major issues that need to be addressed. 6 months later, we talked for days, and she said she didn't want to be with me anymore. But if I made some changes, we could see where things go. We worked things out and reached a happy place, focusing on our relationship. Then my worst fear came true. We were working on things, and she told me she had been seeing someone else for the past month and a half, and had cheated on me with him. She met him at a bar, and he didn't care that she was married, with 2 kids. She also revealed all the lies she had been telling me for the past few months, and we decided to separate. As we talked more, it seemed like she wanted to try dating me again and see where it goes, but my main concern is... The main problem is that she still wants to see this other guy, even though she's told me that she doesn't see it going anywhere. He is very serious about her, and even passed up a chance to move back to Florida because of her. But I don't know if she's telling us both the same thing. I love her with everything I am. She helped me rediscover things I love about myself, and I want things to work out between us. I hear a lot of contradictory things coming from her, and I have serious bouts of anger and sadness that I can't control. It's all internal, but I'm afraid it will start to spill over. I can't afford therapy, even though I would love to try, but I don't know how to deal with any of this. She isn't just my wife, she's my best friend, and we only have each other to talk to about all of this. Oh, and we are stuck in a lease and still live together, which is kind of important information. I haven't actually moved out yet, but it will happen. Not just because we decided to, but because of everything that's happened. I need to address how I had lost contact with us as a couple, and that I was not who I used to be when we met. But I did change that. It was an enlightening moment when I did. However, the changes I made were apparently only for myself, because she didn't change anything about what she was doing. She escalated her behavior to where we are now. I don't understand why it went this way, and what happened to the woman that I fell in love with. Or why she tells me she hopes we can work things out, and that she loves no one more than she loves me, while at the same time telling me she won't stop seeing this guy and that she really likes him. My emotions are all over the place, and I can't seem to get anything straight. I know living together is a bad idea for working things out, or even just moving on, but it's the only option we have for at least a few more weeks. I value getting other opinions on situations. She isn't working right now, and I'm supporting her and my 2 boys on my paycheck, which is why I can't afford counseling at the moment. But I do agree that I need to see a professional, and I didn't need to get angry to separate from her. Once the affair happened, that was enough. I can't stay around with that kind of knowledge in my head. The last week or 2 have been pretty good for us. She seems to be wanting to be honest with me about whatever she can and trying to connect and bond more with me. We both agree that separating is the best thing, but I truly believe that she's trying to get us to a better place before I move out, so we can try and reconcile in the future. Does that seem true to anyone else? Because my confusion level throughout all of this has been very high. Weeks later, my wife doesn't want to be with me right now. She was already seeing someone else. We're separating, but we still live together because she isn't working at the moment. We have 2 kids together. I still love her too much, as I've been told. So the new development now is that she's pregnant. I know, crazy, right? Not only that, but she doesn't know if the child is mine or the other guy's. We haven't had a conception date confirmed yet, but there's a chance that it's not mine. If the child isn't mine, then I'm completely out for good. I won't even get a chance to collect $200. And she knows this, and it scares her because she wants to keep the option of us reconciling in the future. I'm still planning on moving out once we get our finances a little more under control. But what in the holy hell am I supposed to do with this now? She told me that she's not sure if she wants to keep the baby if it isn't my child, because she doesn't want a kid with this guy at all. Yeah, wrap it up then, right? But also because he's not from the state we live in, and she thinks he'll try to bolt back to his home state when the child is born. He's already told her that if the child isn't his, then he wants nothing to do with her. And if it is his, then he wants custody, and she can see the child if he needs her to. What did I do to deserve this, and what should I do now? Nothing is logical at all right now. Nothing makes sense and makes sense at the same time. It would be so much easier if I didn't love her so much. Now she's fighting with this guy because he told her that she's selfish and demanded she get an abortion. The majority of my close friends have asked why I'm still subjecting myself to this, and why haven't I broken the door down to throw her out of it. But emotion does play a huge part in this. I was one of those guys who said, oh, if this ever happens to me. But you're right. You can't really say one way or the other until you are confronted with the situation. Obviously, when I was confronted with it, I did the opposite of what I always said I'd do. Hell, so did she. Because she always said that if it ever came to infidelity, she'd talk to me about it before she left, and that she'd never do it while still in our relationship. The thing that is getting me now is mostly about the pregnancy, because even if it's not mine, she's still my best friend, and I'll still be there to help her through it. But I don't know how to deal with that emotionally. And God, if it is mine, how am I supposed to deal with moving out of the house from my pregnant wife who doesn't want to be with me, and who I still love? Sometimes life is just terrible. The way she's been acting around me lately, it seems as if she has had her wake-up call. She hasn't said out loud that she wants to leave the other guy yet, but she calls him a psycho among other names to me. I hope it is mine though, just for the fact that she is a great mom, and I enjoy having children with her. Also, it would complicate our lives and our other boys' lives much less to not have to deal with something like this. I also can't not be her best friend. I told her that at the end of the day, she will at least have that from me. And I also said that you never know about the future, and that maybe if I do decide to not get back with her 10 years or so down the road, we might both be in a positive enough place to try again. She cried when I said that. She does love and care about me, but not the way she needs to right now to pursue a positive marriage. I know this, and she knows that I'm leaving no matter what for my own mental health. It's just complicating things more internally for me with this pregnancy thing. She's gonna go to the doctor soon to get her conception date, and hopefully, that will bring us some good news. We don't have the best of luck, and I think maybe the powers that be owe us just this one time. Another addition to my backstory is that my 6-year-old isn't my biological child. She got pregnant a few days before we started seeing each other, when she was 17. I had a lot of mental problems with this after he was born, and that started her mental and emotional decline in our marriage. I don't want to seem blameless in all of this, but for better or worse, right? It took me a while, but I got through it and loved that boy just the same as I do of my own flesh. She just didn't feel the same when I finally came around. I told her that I've raised one child that isn't mine under completely different circumstances, but I can't do it again, especially under these circumstances. We've done some research, and we can have a paternity test done between 8 to 12 weeks. Once we have a conception date and find out how far along she really is, we can have some questions answered. I know it has its risks, but this is something that needs to be done. I'm still planning on moving out once we can get a little more financially stable, but I will still be there to support her through this pregnancy. She doesn't need to go through this alone. and she needs at least one person in her corner. And if I'm not there for her, she won't have anyone. All of this came to a head when she lost her job. I don't know if she started to feel completely worthless or what, but that's when things started to get to where they are now. She never finished high school because her dad was sent to prison and she had to start working to support herself and pay the bills. Her mom left when she was 2 and has just recently contacted her to see if they can mend their relationship. This happened after the affair and didn't affect anything with that. I hate what she's done, but she has been through a lot lately, and I can't just wash my hands of her completely. I've told her many times that it would be easier to hate her and tell her to go take a flying leap, but I just can't feel that way, and I don't know if I ever will be able to. Right now would be the time I would be starting to feel that way, and if I don't have that feeling now, then I won't have it later. Does that sound right? I don't mean to pay for things for her and this baby, I just mean that I will be there for her as a friend. If she needs someone to talk to or go with her to an appointment, I will do that. I am in no way going to pay for her to take care of someone else's child. I will do everything I can for my own child, but I refuse to help her financially in that situation. She has been doing her best to be as honest as she can with me lately. She tells me things she doesn't want to say and I don't want to hear. She hasn't talked to the other man in over a week. They had a blowout when she told him she was pregnant and it might be his child. He's 31, career-driven, and very self-absorbed, so he's not happy with the situation. He told her that she either needs to give him the child or have an abortion. When she told him it would be selfish to have an abortion, he said he hopes she has a miscarriage because she is just ruining other people's lives, and that's not fair to him. I know, the same man who had no problem helping to ruin my life is saying this. Sorry, I had to go with that feeling. So now her demeanor towards me has changed 100%. She wants to cuddle and be close to me. We still regularly bond together and say we love each other. Hell, we talk better and seem to bond better now than ever before. And she even told me tonight that she got a personal ringtone on her phone. I don't want this message to get twisted up because I am not dedicating myself emotionally anymore to her. I told her that I am plateauing the way I feel because if I invest more into her than I already am, then this will just devastate me more in the long run. And I'm grateful that I've realized that much, and I will be out if this is not my child. I told her that maybe 10 years down the road we'd be in a place to reconcile, but that wasn't even a given. She was very upset about that and deeply saddened when I said it. I don't know, but I have a very strong feeling that this change in demeanor is due to buyer's remorse, so to speak. Her option has fallen through, and everything she was working towards moving forward or past with has crumbled around her, and she needs to fall back on things to feel better. I'm not dumb, and I know what's going on, but I can't help but feel happy to see some things like they used to be, and feel positive about where we can go. She still knows I'm leaving, and still thinks that it would be the best thing for us, because she knows I need to get away from all of this craziness. The ringtone thing broke me down mentally for a little bit, but for the most part, I feel like I am making good progress with how I feel and think about what's going on. I feel like I'm having many moments of clarity, and this site is helping me out immensely. Just by saying things I can't say to her or my friends, and also having people respond who have been in a similar situation or actually know how to help someone in need. So, a little status update on me. I just found out through some internet digging, and I didn't have to look hard, that the affair my wife had has become affairs, not singular. So this is probably the last straw for me. My mindset is terrible right now, and my hatred and anger for this woman is indescribable. She was sleeping with an ex-boyfriend that was her first love, and I found out she was meeting a guy she met on the internet too. I don't know if that is everything, or if there's more I don't know. But really, how much more do I need to know? Now I wonder how many people the father of this baby could be, instead of just me. Apparently, she had her first affair with her ex 2 years ago, but that was the only time they got together. I think she realized it was a mistake to open anything back up with him. The hardest thing right now is after I confronted her about all of this, she sobbed and broke down about how I didn't deserve any of this because I am too good for someone like her, and that she is so regretful of everything she's done because she doesn't want to lose me. And this has ended her mind. She said she didn't tell me about any of this before because she knew that I would tell her to back off, and she didn't want that. But for some reason, I always seem to find things out. I really didn't think I could hurt any more than I have been, but to see in print about how much she enjoyed sleeping with someone else is terrible. She had supposedly committed to me completely 2 months ago, and I read this log from a month ago. She was even putting out the idea of meeting up with this guy again. I found out this guy drove to the area in May, and they had a good time at the hotel. I think she finally had her epiphany, though, because when she was breaking down and telling me how she felt, I heard the truth behind her words this time. And it made me realize that whenever she spoke before, I didn't really hear any honesty behind what she was saying. I really wish we had a second car so I could move out, because this has just made things twice as hard and even more painful. My wife and I have been talking a lot, and we are still in agreement that we are separating. I already have a place to live lined up, and she's working on hers. My boys are going to stay with her because I am going to be moving in with my dad, so I can get myself debt-free and clear. He also recently went through divorcing my mom and doesn't have the kind of room to house 2 little boys anyway. I think it's the best living arrangement considering. My wife found out that she isn't as far along as they had originally thought, which means the odds of this child being mine have increased exponentially. I am happy for this news because I want my boys to be affected the least amount as possible by all of this. We talked last night and decided that we are going to work things out. She truly seems like she wants to be with me in life and only me. She hates what she's done and expresses to me the sorrow, guilt, and shame she feels for what's happened. The hardest thing about all of this is that I finally have the woman right in front of me that I fell in love with and who I've been waiting to have back for a long time now. And I don't know if I'm in a place to fully make a go at this. We are agreed to take this slow and just see where it goes. She told me that I have to work out my problems before we can be any kind of official. She doesn't want to feel like either of us is halfway into our relationship because that's how things fell apart in the first place, which I agree with. I am really debating trying to work things out, but the baby will be a problem if I'm found to not be the father. My wife sat me down yesterday and told me she just found out that she has chlamydia, so now I probably do too. Yay for me and my rotten luck. I am trying to look at this as positively as possible. I could have something worse than this. But I do not. I found out my test results for chlamydia came back negative, which was great. My antibodies are great, I guess. I still had to get treated, and for all my brothers out there who've had to go through that, I feel your pain. My wife and I have spent the last 3 months in serious dialogue about the direction of our lives. She wants to try counseling now, something she was very against before. And she's gotten rid of every internet thing aside from Facebook. And those were never a problem in the first place. She's cut the other guy out too. She contacted him about him giving her STD, but she said she doesn't need to talk to him again unless the baby turns out to be his. She told me she did all of this for her more than me because she doesn't need any of those things in her life. And she also said she doesn't want any of it either. Thought she didn't treat me badly our whole marriage. It was the opposite, in fact. I was mean and angry towards her for about 6 years of our relationship because I was too mentally immature to handle starting a relationship with someone and being a father for the first time to a child that wasn't mine. She showed me undying love and support through this period of time, and I just kept pushing her away. She could only help me so much, but I was the one who needed to turn myself around. She got to a point where she gave up on me, and the marriage. She couldn't move out financially without me, so she just moved on in every other way. I don't agree or enjoy how things have happened, but I do understand them. I'm not afraid or too dependent to move on. I just love her, I live with my dad while I take care of some debt, and I see my kids when I want. On the side, we're trying to see if we can work things out. I have been on a few dates and have a few girls interested in me. I chose this path because it's what I want for my life. To clarify, I was the problem for most of our marriage. For about 6 years, I was mean and angry towards her. I wasn't mentally mature enough to handle a new relationship, and being a father for the first time to a child that wasn't mine. She showed me more patience, love, and support than many spouses out there. I just refused it and pushed her away. So after a lot of emotional damage, she quit the relationship but wasn't financially stable to leave. She left in every other way. I'm not dependent or afraid to move on. I don't like or agree with how things happened, but I do understand it. I live with my dad now, until I can clear up my debt. I've been on a few dates, and have a few ladies interested in me. I choose to work things out because I want to. I have opened up to her more than I have even to myself, and I am a much better person with her around. It's not something I want to give up on, without trying to see if it's salvageable. Severable? 3 months. Every waking moment is a long time to reflect. She isn't holding on because she's pregnant. She's been on her own for a while now and doing fine. We were trying to work things out before we found out she was pregnant. It just threw a major wrench in the works and complicated our intentions even more. She's as open and honest with me as she can be. She has the spark of excitement in her eye about us again, and I admit to a lot of blame for letting it go away. She is trying what she can to earn my trust and full love back, and it will be a long road. But we've both agreed we don't want to rush back into things. Just let things play out. No matter which side of the road we ended up on, at least we know it's the right one and not one out of loneliness, desperation, or for the kids. I realize that it may sound like I'm making excuses for her, but I'm just trying to get across the point that I understand the emotional causes of her actions. I don't agree or fully forgive the infidelity, and neither does she. She acknowledges that things spiraled out of control, and she has to live with that guilt. She has burst into tears many times at the drop of a hat because of what she's done to me. I'm sure much of what I say now contradicts my original posts, but that was me processing in real time while things were happening. I really hope I don't stay in this section only and can make my way to the reconciliation section, but that's a long way off, if at all. I'm trying to be rational about my progress as opposed to getting hopeful. This site is a big help for me with just getting things out, and with this baby coming, I'm sure I'll need to rely on it more in the near future. Well, I agree that it may seem like I've given her many chances, but it's not like I found out one thing. We tried to work things out, and then she turned around and kept on stepping out. I found out everything after the fact, which I know is terrible, but the level of manipulation is different to me. I found out everything when she originally told me about her affair, and the rest I found out on my own. When I asked her about the rest, she said she didn't tell me because she thought it would be the final blow to our efforts to work things out. And I agree that I was showing her more love than I was receiving. But now she is dedicated, loving, and open with me. We talk about the future, our feelings, and our hopes together all the time. We laugh, play, and cry together again. It feels like it used to when we first got back together. And it's nice. My question to everyone now is, how did you mentally cope with someone who wants to move away from the past and build towards a future months later? So my wife and I are now separated, living in different places. My problem now is that I really don't stay at the other place. I honestly can't remember the last time I did. We both seem to look for an excuse for me to stay here. Even if it's a valid reason, it's still an excuse. The main one is that our second car burned up in a fire, and my wife works early in the morning. So it just makes more sense for me to stay here than to make the trip at 6 in the morning. We both agree that we need to be separated, but we are having difficulties actually doing it. We have been having deep talks and connecting much more now. Some of our issues with infidelity have seemed easier to deal with. I feel like the place we were in was keeping bad memories and negative energy in the present. And when we moved, it literally felt like a weight was lifted off. Are we holding on out of loneliness, or just because we feel like it's time to move on. The ultrasound was on Wednesday, and she found out that the baby is a boy. I'm kind of conflicted about that because she wanted a girl, and so did I, but I still didn't want the risk of her having a girl without me. It's selfish, I know, but it still made me a little happy and also made me feel bad for being happy about it. I tried my best to stay withdrawn during the ultrasound and only have a supportive role, but then the technician said she was only 22 weeks instead of 25 like we originally guessed, and it threw me for a loop. If that's the case, then this will pretty much confirm that the baby is mine. Both of us have agreed that paternity of the child guarantees nothing for us one way or the other, but it just feels like we'd have a better chance if the baby was mine for obvious reasons. I want to convince myself that I could handle it if the baby wasn't mine, but I really don't think I'm strong enough to do that. Time will tell with all of this. I just don't know which way it will go. I think about it and I feel sad. This is hard. I really wish the pregnancy wasn't involved because it complicates things so much. She's done everything she can to convince me that reconciling has nothing to do with the pregnancy or being alone. But I think anyone would be doubtful of that in this situation. She told me she doesn't want to get her hopes up about me being the father because she doesn't want to have her expectations shattered later on. Trying to stay positive is becoming easier, but sometimes things are still overwhelming. If you end up taking that bike trip through Iowa, I would definitely take you up on that offer for a beer. I've developed a bit of a taste for it since all of this started. My comment part 2 ending coming very soon. Let me finish my lunch and part 2 will be out.